Greetings to you, brothers and sisters. God bless you. Today, I want to talk on a topic which challenges our abilities and our faith in God, and also faith in ourselves and faith in mankind. So my topic of discussion today is, do you have the faith it takes to lead your generation? Do you have the faith? Do you have the courage? Do you have the audacity it takes to lead your generation? Now, most of us are faith-based. Even people who say they don't believe in God and they believe in science, science is God. It doesn't really matter. You say, oh, it's facts and, figures, is hypotheses and conclusions and experiments and, conclusions. But all of that is God. For there is nothing but God. So, which means to an extent, all of us are God's children. So whether you acknowledge it or you don't acknowledge it, it doesn't change that fact. And all of us, the abilities we have in life are vested in our faith. They are vested in our belief. They are vested in our understanding of the principles of life. Now, people sometimes call them principles of success, or they call them principles of prosperity or principles of, put whatever adjective you want to put. Now, these are all based on our understanding of God and the working mechanics of God. Now, in the past, I have made, some videos challenging religion. They're challenging religion and not challenging God or challenging, what people, probably believe. What I'm challenging is the manner in which those messages are being preached onto the so-called believers. Now, my question today is, do you have the faith it takes to lead your generation? Now, there are so many examples that challenge me. One thing with me is when I study the Word of God, or when I hear quotations from the Bible or even from the Quran or from the Torah or all the other holy books that have been written all across, one thing I do is I don't seek to, I just try to apply them as they are. Because sometimes our ability to reason and to think is what causes us so much pain. And this is why we don't have faith. We don't have the courage and the tenacity to go after what we believe in with everything that is in us. So my question to you is, do you have the faith it takes to lead your generation? Now, for us to have the faith it takes for us to lead our generation, one thing must elude us. We must get rid of one thing: fear. Fear of whatever it is, the fear of governments, the fear of other people, the fear of criticism, the fear of people insulting you and trolls following you online, the fear of making a mistake, the fear of becoming a laughing stock, the fear of another human being or other human beings. So for us to get the faith that we need not to be afraid. Like in the Bible, same as in some other holy books, it is said that, do not be afraid, because when you are afraid of any situation, you're giving that thing power over you. You're giving that thing the influence and the authority to dictate to you what the end result of that situation or circumstance is going to be. So without fear, if you are not afraid, therefore, it means you can face a lion and the lion will run away from you. Now, you can literally do it, like literally, if you have the faith in your heart. So the question is, do you have the faith it takes? Let's look at one instance, for example, okay? I remember a story in the Bible, like Moses, some people were sent to canvass, the land of Jericho. And so when the people, like 10 people were sent, they came back, 8 people were saying, man, though that land is good, flowing with milk and honey, however, it is infested with giants. And we were in their sights like grasshoppers, which means to them, they saw only the problem and they were afraid of the problem. And because they were afraid, they didn't see any possibility that they could live in that land that was flowing with milk and honey. Now, Joshua, on the other hand, with Caleb, they came back with a different report. Yes, there were giants in that land. However, we are able to defeat them because there is milk and honey in that land. 2 different groups, 2 different mentality, 2 different abilities. One saw a problem, the other saw opportunities. And in the end, what happened? They took the land that was flowing with milk and honey. The question is, do you have the faith to face a giant? Another one that strikes me the most is David. The Philistine, this man called Goliath was troubling the Israelites. And everyone was afraid. Even Saul, the king, was afraid. The entire nation was paralyzed by one man. But one small boy called David. He was like, who on earth is this uncircumcised Philistine? Making all the people of the Lord to be afraid. And he said to Goliath that he was going to kill him. Goliath was probably like, oh, look at this little boy. You cannot even tie your diapers. What happened? David didn't lift up a sword. He didn't lift up a shield. What did he use? Just to show you what faith can do. He used a string and a stone. And what happened? He killed Goliath and he cut off his head. My goodness, what audacity of faith is that? What audacity of faith is that? Look at the case of Joseph. Now, Joseph was in a foreign land. And this king, who was seen like a god, worshipped across the entire land of Egypt. He had a dream. And he was so confused, he didn't know what to do. All his sorcerers and all the people that he knew, they tried and they failed. And they brought this small boy, Joseph, from the prison. He told the Pharaoh what the dream meant. And he did not end there. Can you imagine the audacity of Joseph? He went ahead to say, Pharaoh, now I'm going to advise you of what to do when the time comes and you have plenty of harvest. And when the time comes when there is famine, I'm going to advise you what to do so that you and your people will not starve. And my goodness, Pharaoh looked at this little boy and was like, oh my goodness, how dare you have this kind of faith, this kind of audacity and courage to address me and to advise me, despite my counsel of witches and whatever you call them and sorcerers sitting there that have been advising me for over 30 years. You, this small boy, you come and you say you want to advise me. Now, unlike all that kind of people, Pharaoh would have put Joseph to death. But he looked at the courage. He saw in Joseph a man that was ready to lead his generation. And what did he do? He said, bring my robe, bring the royal robe, bring the ring. He took the ring from his finger and he put it on Joseph. And he said, after me in this land, this is the person that you should look up to for leadership. And what happened? You know the story. My question to you today is, do you have the faith it takes to lead your generation? I have the faith it takes to lead my generation. And this is why I'm addressing you. A moment will come when many of us who are sick of what is going on in Africa, we will say enough to all these old men and women in high places that are depressing and killing the destinies of our fellow brothers and sisters. That moment is here right now. However, we are being molded, metamorphosizing like a butterfly Soon, our wings will spread out. And when we start to fly, nothing can stop us. So I'm calling you today, in whatever sector you find yourself, in whatever area you find yourself, build the faith and the courage. As long as you're dealing with human beings, you cannot mess up too much. I'm telling you, you cannot mess up too much. If you've been scared that, governments are going to do this or people are going to do this, that is just in your mind. So rise up, face that fear, gain the faith and the courage that is required of you and me to lead this generation. Until we do that, it will become very difficult for Africa to prosper. So my message to you today is, have the faith it takes to lead a generation. Have the faith in the face of adversity to say, you know what, I'm going forward. Come what may, I'm moving forward. Have the faith in the face of opposition, in the face of people with guns and missiles looking to destroy you. Have the faith. A person who has faith can never be stopped. In life or in death, they cannot be stopped. Think of all the great men and women that you know. Think of Mandela, he's of late now. Think of Gandhi, he died a long time ago. Think of people like Isaac Newton, who died many years ago. Think of the Wright brothers. Think of the Wright brothers. People who stood up in that generation to say, I am worthy to be counted. They said, I have the faith. Think of people like Edison or Henry Ford. Think of people like Andrew Carnegie. Think of people like Rockefeller. Think of people like John Pierpont Morgan. These are people who stood up in that generation and said, the moment is ripe for us to lead our generation. Think of people like Emmanuel Macron. At 39 years of age, he said, the moment is ripe for me to lead France. Think of people like that. Is the moment ripe for you to lead your nation? Don't lead through violence. However, you have the knowledge and the intellect to bring government to their knees without any violence. I pray today that God will grant you wisdom and knowledge to lead your generation. God bless you.